The classroom went dead silent when the teacher's sharp voice echoed across the room. "Pack your things and leave, Daniel. You don't belong here." Every head turned toward the young boy in the back row. Daniel, a 14-year-old black farm boy, froze in his seat. His hands were calloused from working long hours on his family's farm, but his heart was softer than anyone could imagine. He loved studying, and he worked harder than anyone else in that classroom. Yet, no matter how hard he tried, he never seemed to be enough for Mrs. Collins, his teacher. "But ma'am," Daniel stammered, his voice trembling. I didn't do anything wrong." Mrs. Collins slammed her hand on the desk. "Enough. You're a distraction. This school is not meant for boys like you. Go back to your farm where you belong." The class erupted into whispers. Some kids laughed, others lowered their heads in shame, but no one dared to speak up for Daniel. He swallowed hard, fighting back the tears that burned in his eyes. Slowly, he stood up, picked up his worn-out backpack, and started walking toward the door. Just as he reached the threshold, his words slipped out in a whisper, "One day, you'll regret this." Little did anyone know, that day would come much sooner than they expected. Outside, Daniel sat on the school steps, staring at the dusty ground. His shoes were torn, his uniform faded, but his spirit was unbreakable. He wanted to make his late parents proud. He was being raised by his grandfather, a man everyone thought was just a poor old farmer. As Daniel waited, he prayed silently. He knew his grandfather would arrive soon to pick him up in their rusty old truck. But what happened next shocked the entire town. The steady rumble of a helicopter broke the silence. Students rushed to the windows, pressing their faces against the glass. Teachers ran outside in confusion. The principal even stormed out, demanding to know what was going on. And then, before their very eyes, a massive black helicopter descended onto the school's football field. Dust swirled in every direction, kids screamed in excitement, and even Mrs. Collins stood frozen, her jaw hanging open. The helicopter's doors slid open, and out stepped a tall, commanding figure in a tailored suit. His silver hair gleamed under the sun, and his presence demanded respect. It was Daniel's grandfather. Everyone thought of him as just an old man working in the fields. But in reality, Mr. Elijah Carter was one of the wealthiest landowners in the entire state. He owned not only vast acres of farmland, but also several agricultural companies that supplied produce nationwide. As he walked toward the school with bodyguards behind him, silence fell over the crowd. His eyes scanned the students, the teachers, and finally landed on his grandson sitting quietly on the steps. "Daniel," Elijah said in a strong, deep voice, "why are you sitting outside?" Daniel stood up slowly, his eyes wet. "Grandpa, Mrs. Collins expelled me. She said I don't belong here." Gasps filled the air. The teacher turned pale, her lips quivering. Elijah's expression darkened. He turned toward the crowd and asked, "Is this true? A child is being denied his education because of who he is." The principal stammered, "Mr. Carter, I assure you, this is a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding." Elijah's voice thundered. "No, this is prejudice. This is disrespect. And I will not stand for it." He stepped closer to Mrs. Collins, who was now trembling. "You judged my grandson not by his abilities, not by his heart, but by the dirt on his boots and the color of his skin." The students remained silent, their eyes wide with shock. Elijah then raised his voice so everyone could hear, "Daniel works harder before sunrise than most people do all day. He is smarter than you give him credit for. And let me tell you something, this boy will one day run my empire. He will lead thousands of employees. He will change lives. And when that day comes, he will remember the ones who stood in his way." Mrs. Collins stuttered, I didn't mean," but Elijah cut her off. "Enough. You don't deserve to teach children if you cannot see their potential. Principal, I expect her resignation on my desk by tomorrow, or this school will lose every cent of funding I provide." The principal's eyes widened. "Funding? You're our biggest donor." "Yes," Elijah said firmly. "This school stands because of the Carter Foundation. and it will continue to stand, but only if it learns to stand for every child, no matter where they come from. Mrs. Collins broke down in tears, realizing her career was over. Elijah then placed his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Son, don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't belong. You belong wherever you choose to be. And no one can take that from you." Daniel's classmates looked at him differently now. The boy they once mocked for being poor, for being just a farm kid, was suddenly the center of respect. Some even felt ashamed for laughing at him earlier. As Elijah and Daniel walked toward the helicopter, the crowd parted like a wave. The loud blades started spinning again, whipping the air around them. But before boarding, Elijah turned one last time to face the entire school. "Let today be a reminder," he said. "Greatness does not wear a uniform. It does not drive a fancy car. It comes from within. And sometimes, the one you look down on will be the very one you'll look up to tomorrow." With that, Elijah and Daniel boarded the helicopter, and it lifted off into the sky, leaving behind a school forever changed. And from that day forward, no one ever doubted Daniel again. This is not just about a boy, his grandfather, or even a helicopter landing at school. It's about respect. Respect is not a luxury you give to a few. It's a basic human right that everyone deserves. Too often, people are judged by the surface, their skin color, the clothes they wear, the job they do, or even the place they come from. But the truth is, none of those things define a person's worth. What truly matters is the heart they carry, the effort they put in, and the dreams they dare to chase. Think about Daniel. To many in that classroom, he was just a poor farm boy, someone with dirt on his shoes and calluses on his hands. To Mrs. Collins, he was a distraction, someone who didn't belong. But in reality, Daniel carried more strength, wisdom, and potential than most of the people who mocked him. And when his grandfather stepped out of that helicopter, the world finally saw what had been hidden all along: greatness disguised in simplicity. But here's the thing: you don't need a helicopter or a wealthy grandfather to prove your worth. Every single person has value, whether the world sees it right away or not. The lesson is simple: never look down on anyone, because you don't know their story. The janitor cleaning the hallway might be a retired veteran who once saved lives. The delivery driver dropping off packages might be a father working 3 jobs to send his kids to college. The quiet student sitting alone in class might be the next leader, inventor, or artist who changes the world. Judgment is easy. Respect takes effort. But respect has the power to change lives. When you show someone kindness and dignity, you give them the courage to rise. When you strip someone of it, you plant wounds that may last a lifetime. Daniel's story reminds us all that prejudice is a blindfold. Mrs. Collins couldn't see Daniel's brilliance because she was blinded by her own bias. And that blindness cost her not only her job, but also her chance to witness a young man's extraordinary journey. For the students watching that day, everything changed. They learned that success does not wear a label. They learned that the person you laugh at today might be the very person you admire tomorrow. And they learned that respect is never optional. It is essential.